coordinator, and they also had inferior wide receiver talent. So, you get the point. This Penn State offense can absolutely be electric. Penn State, did you know this? They were 5th in 2024 in offensive efficiency rating with a 79.3 rating per ESPN's FPI. And they scored 33.1 points per game, which was 28th in 16 games, facing Notre Dame and Ohio State, who were top 5 defenses last year per ESPN's FPI. Actually, they were top 3. Notre Dame was 3rd. Ohio State was 2nd. I think Ohio State was number 1, although for whatever reason, FPI thought Texas was that unit. For some understandable reasons. I don't want to get carried away with myself, but the point being, Penn State faced some good defenses last year, and while Ohio State completely smothered them, they were able to hang, 24 points with no wide receivers on Notre Dame, and they were able to, come up clutch on the road against USC, who had their best defense under Riley. And I think that in year one, even with all of the struggles, that Penn State had on offense last year, I think that they showed a lot of signs of progress. I mean, again, Penn State was 5th in offensive efficiency last year with a 79.3 rating. They scored 33.1 points per game, which was 28th. They were top 15 in points per play, top 10 in yards per play. Allar was top 20 in America in most statistical categories. He made a ton of progress from 2023 to 2024. And Penn State ran for over 5 yards per carry. I mean, that was probably one of the more, if not the most productive rushing offenses under Franklin. And they didn't have Saquon Barkley, and they didn't have a quarterback as mobile as Trace McSorley. That's just how good Penn State's offensive line was last year. It's gone from a weakness, a stereotypical weakness of the program, to being a huge strength. Penn State's almost minus 300 to reach the playoffs. Before we resume this segment, please take a few seconds of your time to make sure you have liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and for any team podcasts and playlists linked in the description, and also comment your thoughts down below in the comment section and join my Discord server via the description. All of those things I just asked you to do are completely free, and they sign you up for things related to my channel, or they don't sign you up for anything. No cost to you, and all the benefit to you because we release daily college football content here on College Football with Sam. If you want to support the channel monetarily, sign up for a YouTube membership, or check any other links in the description for my merchandise store and Patreon page. Thank you very much, and let's get back to the segment. And I got to tell you, with the O-line they have, with the quarterback, wide receivers from the portal, the running backs, the tight ends, and then with what they have on defense with Jim Knowles and that D-line and that linebacker core and the corners, and even though safety is a little bit of, I would say, a concern, I still think it's a good, great unit nationally in football. I don't think they can go worse than 10-2, barring several critical injuries. Several of them. I mean, I will go as far to say they lose Drew Allar. Well, they're not beating Ohio State probably, and they're probably not beating Oregon either. But with all they have on defense and offense, they could probably run the ball with a super inexperienced, quarterback occasionally passing to keep him honest, and they could probably win the other 10 games, if not 9 of them. And I don't think Allar will get injured. He's tough. He doesn't have a bad injury history whatsoever. He's a big, strong, athletic in terms of being a quarterback. He's not like a dual threat athlete, for example, but he doesn't have a bad injury history. He's a very healthy guy. So this team is a very high floor and a very, very high ceiling. And I think the offense plays into this. When I look at the offense, for example, I have on my all Big Ten team Drew Allar, Singleton and Allen at running back, Nick Dawkins at center, Olaivavega Ioane and Cooper Cousins at guard, Nolan Rucci, Anthony Dunco, and Drew Shelton at tackle. They have 3 tackles who will be in the NFL one day on their current roster. That's nuts. Name me another program who has that. where right now they'll be in the NFL in the future. Dunco, Shelton, and Rucci have all played at a level that suggests in the future they will be in the NFL. I don't know another program with that type of proven production at tackle. I don't. I just straight up do not know. And with Allar being in another year of, learning the playbook, of gaining experience, of practicing, of probably becoming more mobile, I'm sure that Kotelnicki will want him to be able to run the ball more because they won't have a Bo Prabula to be a wildcat option. I think he'll have better pocket presence. That'll help the O-line out. They were a good unit in pass protection, actually. The only difference between their pass protection and some other programs in the Big Ten that were ahead of them there were that Allar's pocket presence was not perfect. It was better, but it wasn't as good as Will Howard's, for example. I love everything about this offense. I do. I mean, they don't have a Jeremiah Smith at receiver, no, but Trebor Pena is very, very great. They have Luke Reynolds and Khalil Dinkins at tight end. They might have the best tight end room in the Big Ten. They don't have a Max Clare in terms of proven production or a Kenyon Sadiq, but they're probably deeper than Ohio State or Oregon at tight end in terms of talent. And if they just develop well there, it could be better by the end of the year. This O-line is the best in the Big Ten by a comfortable margin. It may not be quite as good as Oregon's at tackle, but it's far better than Oregon's on the interior. I'd say it's better than Michigan's or Ohio State's, who've traditionally been good on the O-line, whether recently or all time. I think they're better at Ohio State and Michigan at literally every position on the O-line. Literally. And same with USC. And again, more positions than Oregon. And I think Indiana has an underrated O-line. Their depth is nowhere near Penn State's. It's crazy. This is what happens when you bring everyone back and when you develop well. You know how to recruit players, and you have an elite strength and conditioning program with elite assistants. You have the 2023 Michigan, 2024 Ohio State formula. That's what they did, where they brought everyone back. Didn't mean they didn't have questions. I mean, Franklin only has 3 wins versus FPI top 10 teams in his tenure at Penn State. That is a massive question. And if you will not pick Penn State to win it all because of James Franklin, that's a valid reason. It's a valid reason. It's like last year, looking at Ohio State and thinking, well, have they figured out line of scrimmage to be top 5 there? And that was a question. Valid answer. Or Will Howard, will he translate? A kind of valid answer. They were proven wrong at the end. Ohio State's D-line was phenomenal. Howard was a phenomenal QB. And then for Michigan the prior year, in 23, do they have the wide receivers to carve elite defenses? Is J.J. McCarthy going to take that next step? Can they win it all with a blue chip ratio barely above 50%? Valid questions. Penn State has those, to disagree with my stance that I think they're going to win it all this year. But they're experienced. 14 of 22 of their starters are seniors. That also translates to the offense. This team is deep. It's an incredible team. And the offense, I think, is the epitome of this. Defensively, I don't think they'll replace Abdul Carter. And I don't quite know if their DBs are as deep as at times they used to be. Maybe I'm wrong there. And I do think that Knowles is the master of punching above his weight class. You saw it at Oregon State, saw it at Duke. I think you saw it at the first 2 years with Ohio State, where they had the stars, but they had no one close to Caleb Downs, and the defensive line was, lagging behind its talent level precipitously. And yet he fielded an elite defense in 23 and an even better defense last year in 2024. So I think that side will be fine. But I want to focus on the offense today because I actually think the offense might be more talented than the defense. You have Drew Allar, who had 3,327 passing yards last year, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, a 77.5 quarterback efficiency rating. There is a chance that he is round 1, pick 1 in the 2026 NFL draft. There's a chance of that. There is a chance where he is the number 1 quarterback in America this year. There's a chance of that. He has the measurables, he has the size, the arm strength, the ball placement. He just needs to be more consistent. And you know what? To everyone who tells me, oh, he sucks, he's overrated, he progressed from 22 to 23 and from 23 to 24. He's gotten better every year. And if he gets better at the same pace he's improved at, So, for example, from 2023 to 2024, if he gets better there, he'll be a top 10 quarterback at the worst, top 5, maybe even number 1 at the best. And that's not even including the fact that he returns an elite offensive line. He upgrades tremendously at wide receiver. J.J. McCarthy from 22 to 23 went from being, fringe top 15 like Allar last year to being a top 3 quarterback. And they didn't get a wide receiver in the portal for him. They just returned the same guys they had the prior year who were better than Penn State's wide receiver core last year, especially Roman Wilson. But still, I don't think 2023 Michigan had a Trebor Pena or a Devonte Ross. I don't think they had anyone with the athleticism in terms of size that Kyron Hudson provides for Penn State. I mean, the wide receiver core can't really be more night and day unless you want to get unrealistic and hypothetically say Penn State gets an Ohio State caliber wide receiver room, or a Clemson or an Auburn or an Alabama caliber one, which won't happen without high school recruiting. That's going to help Allar a ton. On the ground, they bring back Nicholas Singleton and Kaytron Allen, who ran for a combined 2,207 rushing yards, had 528 receiving yards, and 27 touchdowns total. At wide receiver, Trebor Pena, Devonte Ross, and Kyron Hudson all come in. Those are going to be the starters. Combined between them, they have 2,446 receiving yards and 23 touchdowns. Reynolds and Dawkins come back with 233 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. Warren was a 1,000-yard receiver last year at tight end and played Wildcat quarterback. I don't think Reynolds will be as good as Warren immediately, but with his talent and how much they played him last year, I would be lying to you if I said they won't or couldn't use him in some ways that they used Warren. And then on the O-line, they got Shelton, they got Rucci, they got Dunco, Ioane, Cousins, and Dawkins. Then you also have like Birchmeyer and Williams, who are probably not great players yet, but were top 100 players, great offensive linemen out of high school that have had a few years in the system and have been developed by Phil Trotwine, who I think is up there with Kyle Flood and Joe Rudolph in terms of the elite offensive line coaches of college football. Penn State was 18th in yards per pass attempt last season with 8.3. They were 46th in yards per completion with 12.5. They ran for 5.3 yards per carry, which was 18th. They fielded the top Big Ten rushing offense. Not Ohio State with Judkins and Henderson, who were better than Allen and Singleton were last year. Not USC, who with Riley, when he's on point, knows how to command a rushing offense. And they had Woody Marks, who was, if I had to make a list for players who I watched who had the oomph factor, like the it factor, the I want to kill you and I want my team to win factor, Woody Marks would have been number 1. He was one of the toughest players in football last year. That team, nor Ohio State, nor Oregon with those offensive linemen, nor Michigan, who traditionally has been known for running successfully, they did not lead the nation. None of those teams did. They did not lead the Big Ten or the nation in running the ball. Penn State didn't lead the nation either, but Penn State led the Big Ten in yards per carry. They were awesome at it. I mean, when they played Notre Dame, and yes, Notre Dame was banged up, but Penn State also had no receivers, so Notre Dame just knew it was coming. It was either Tyler Warren or running the ball. Penn State controlled Notre Dame at the line of scrimmage. They controlled that team. It was just Leonard being a safer QB with the football, and it was really that. It came down to Leonard not turning it over as much as Allar that won Notre Dame that football game. And Notre Dame had better receivers. Like Jaden Greathouse last year would have been wide receiver number 1 for Penn State. He would have. Just see what he did against Ohio State's DBs that no Penn State receiver had any hope of doing last year. That rushing attack with these receivers is going to improve dramatically. You look at the fact that Penn State runs the ball for 57.37% of the time, which is 29th. Offensively, in terms of offensive efficiency, they score 0.494 points per play, which is 14th. 6.4 yards per play, which is 10th. Their 2025 outlook factoring all this in with 76% of their production coming back, which is 10th, and a preseason SP Plus rating on offense with a 40.6, which is 3rd, Penn State, I think, will have the nation's best offense in terms of efficiency. They will not have the Ohio State finesse at wide receiver or the size or the toughness there, so they won't have that outside explosiveness. They won't. They will not have Arch Manning levels of dual threat quarterback and absolute, NFL hype frenzy. They won't have a 2019 LSU offense. They won't. They won't have a 2020 Bama offense. However, they have areas at certain positions. They have skill sets. They have depth. They have the play caller. And all these different things that I think blend together to form an offense that probably has the highest floor in football and has a ceiling that is dramatically underrated. Very underrated. Very much so. I mean, people act like Allar is a 3-star. He's not. I mean, do 3-stars find a way to, throw touchdowns against some of the top teams in America when they have literally no wide receivers? The only wide receiver who Penn State may have been sad to see let go was Harrison Wallace. The only one. And that's just a maybe. Amari Evans was going to be gone after last year. And I think that just observing what Penn State did last year, where they were very successful in success rate under Kotelnicki, and they were able to run the ball at a rate they've never been able to really perform at under Franklin previously, and they bring almost everyone back. And then when you factor in portal players, 10 of 11, or no, 10, 9 of 11 of their players, 9 of 11, 8 of 11, started last year at some school. And the others were rotational players. They were second stringers. They were guys that played in key moments. So this is an old, experienced, talented, proven offense with an offensive coordinator that at worst is top 5, top 10 in America, that I and many others think is the best. They have a potential round 1, pick 1 quarterback. And they have what should profile as the number 1 rushing offense. Notre Dame, yes, they return a really good O-line, and they have two elite running backs, but Riley Leonard's gone, and Carr is less mobile than Allar is, and they just don't have that same experience overall in offense that Penn State does. They don't. Ohio State, we've already talked about this. I mean, they lose generational running backs. They're not going to replace that immediately. Sayin is not as mobile as Howard is, and their offensive line, when you watch in the playoffs, was a good unit, but it was still mitigated by the staff because against great defenses, it can't hold up. They don't have the depth there, or now even the talent to be this Joe Moore Award caliber unit. I think in 2026 they will be, for sure, because they'll probably bring everyone back from that unit. But this Penn State team just has so much going for them on offense, especially. So that's my thoughts on Penn State and this offense. The rushing offense will be superior to the passing offense, tying this in to a previous question that was asked of me of whether the Penn State rushing offense or passing offense will be better. The rushing offense will be superior. It should be the number 1 rushing offense in football. This team will probably be able to do what Michigan did in 2023. They could probably run the ball 30 times in a row, and against teams that don't have the number 1 rushing defense, they should be able to average 4, 5, 6 yards per carry at times and establish game control. And I think they will have more explosiveness than that Michigan rushing offense did because their running backs are much better. Like, Kaytron Allen's better than Donovan Edwards, and Singleton is much better in terms of talent profile than Corum and Edwards as well. So this is going to be probably, from my perspective, the best offense the Big Ten has seen since, I would say, 2022 Ohio State. I don't think it'll be better than that. Just Stroud, those receivers, that Ohio State O-line, and then having Cade Stover at tight end is just a little too much for me to say that Penn State will field a better offense than that. You probably won't have, again, the explosiveness that last year's Ohio State offense did, but you will not have the floor that offense did. I mean, that team and offense looked putrid against Nebraska and Michigan, who had good defenses, especially Michigan's, but they did not have generational defenses either. This Penn State offense will not have those lows that Ohio State offense did, or the lows that the Michigan offense in 23 did, and their ceiling will be higher than the 23 Michigan offense too. Just making comparisons to previous Big Ten national champions. That's my analysis of this Penn State offense here. I'm expecting this unit to take a big step forward. You know, they scored, again, 33.1 points per game last year. I imagine they hit close to 40, if not 40. With all they bring back, the schedule yet again is very, very doable. It's actually easier in the non-conference. I think that they're going to score points, and they're going to game control you too. It's going to be an offense that, from my perspective, reminds me the most, not of the recent Big Ten championship offenses. This offense reminds me the most, when looking at it, of the Georgia offenses when they won the title, where they had, they had great enough receivers to be explosive through the air. They had an elite offensive line that opened up lanes for the ground, and they had talented tight ends, although Penn State won't have anyone nearly as talented as Bowers that year. But Allar's much more talented than Bennett, and Singleton and Allen are more talented than anyone Georgia had in that 2022 room, and they at least match that 2021 room, if not are better. So this is exciting. You should expect big things of this Penn State team and this Penn State offense. Thank you for watching College Football with Sam. Make sure that you've liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and team playlists and podcasts in the description, join the free Discord server where we talk college football 24/7, and have commented your thoughts down below. Check out the description for any ways you can support the channel monetarily. Everything else I've asked you to do is completely free, and your support means the world to me. We're trying to become the next big thing on college football YouTube. 6-figure subscribers, maybe 1 million one day. I think we can do that. And also check out any videos or playlists, anything in these columns right here, where there will be videos and playlists. Yeah, you get the point. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.